What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Thinkin' Wealthy podcast, episode number 24.
24.
Actually, this might be 23. Honestly, no, it's 24.
I don't know.
It's 24. And today I got not Nick by my side today. Today we got Nick's counterpart, his dark side. We got Tristan on the mic. Tristan is Nick's younger brother. We've had him on here before. But today it's just going to be me and Tristan, and we're going to be talking all about kind of like starting your self-development journey and kind of, we're going to be going over a little bit of how Tristan's kind of started out. He's 2 years younger than us, so he's kind of like been watching as we go and kind of joining us on this journey as well. So we're going to kind of dive into like getting started, stuff like that. But first, before we do that, I got to tell you guys about the fee. You know how it go. There's a fee. You have to give us money every time you watch.
At least 2,000.
At least 2,000. Just kidding. Basically, obviously, we're sitting here. We run no ads on this channel at all. We do all of these podcasts with no ads, and that's because we want to provide information straight to you guys with no distractions, right? But obviously, we want to build this brand, and we want to build this community that we have going here, and you guys can help us out with that more than you think. So go tell your freaking friends, right? You're going to start your self-development journey. You're like, oh, these guys are dope. I like listening to their podcast. Go tell your friends about it then, right? Everyone needs to get on that self-development grind and work on themselves. It's always good to, think about that stuff. So if you can get your friends on it, why not, right? So let them know.
And those friends that don't want to get on that might need to reconsider your friends.
Well, I mean, okay, that's a little mean. But, like, he's got a point. Keep your circle as people that will help you grow and benefit. But, go tell your friends, go tell your grandma, whatever. But today, like I said, we're going to be kind of jumping in to the start of the self-development journey. And I guess we'll start off, like, do you want to give a little bit about, like, you, or do you want me to go first?
I'll give some backstory. So
all right.
I'd say I've been on it so maybe like a year or so now.
Right.
Like I've started taking it seriously more recently. But, like, I'd say almost a year ago I started, like, getting into the workforce, actually trying to make money, like
right.
in the traditional sense of, like, getting a job, a minimum wage job, just building some experience,
Right.
So I actually got a job at McDonald's a year ago. Definitely
McDonald's
an experience. Yeah. Everyone who works in fast food knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of when my my whole thing started. I'm like, wow, I'm making money,
Right.
This is possible.
And I think, like, it's always good, like, your first minimum wage job, you kind of, like, you sit there and you realize, like, okay, this is, like, cool, like, I'm making some money, but, like, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So it's a good way to kind of, like, see, like, okay, like, if I don't pick up my slack and I don't start working on some things, like, this might be my life for the rest.
Yeah, it is scary to see that paycheck and getting that only 2 weeks, every 2 weeks.
Right. It's not a lot of money. And I think, that's a big motivating factor for a lot of people, kind of seeing, like, okay, I can do a lot better than this. But, yeah, like, kind of, with my starting my self journey as well, like, it kind of started for me before I got a job. It was more like, went through some girl troubles, broke up with my girlfriend at the time, kind of had to learn to rework myself a little bit, realized that I had a lot of work to do before I went off to college, because it was like, dang, like, I'm going to be going to college soon, and, like, I'm going to be an adult, right? So I was just like, okay, there's a lot to get started with. And I mean, it basically all starts with, like, I feel like there's some kind of moment where you realize, like, okay, things aren't going my way, and I got to kind of learn to adapt, right?
Yeah, of course.
I think self-development really is kind of the art of learning to adapt to new things, right? Like, a lot of people try to resist or push away, or they just kind of, like, push themselves into, like, a dark abyss of nothingness by, trying to push for instead of adapt to the changes in their lives. And a person who's truly going to, make it and, like, have good, self-morals, keep their life going strong, kind of starts with adapting to those changes, and especially as young people, changes are happening all the time for us. We're growing up, things are changing, friend groups change, school changes, work changes, all that type of stuff. It's all going to have an effect. So it's, an important moment in that self-development journey.
Learning to overcome those obstacles really makes you grow as a person as well. I think learning early on that not everything is going to go smooth. You could plan perfect, but, something will get in the way.
Right.
And I think learning to overcome those is definitely going to help you further in life.
All right. And I think, to start off, this episode's kind of all going to be, it's going to be targeting people who are, maybe thinking about starting that self-development journey, or at least starting with something. and kind of an important point I want to make is like your self-development journey isn't going to have like a clear start, right? Like it's not going to have a day, you might have a day where like a big change happens or something happens that you remember that kind of like triggers you into getting into like, okay, I need to work on myself. But I mean, generally speaking, like your self-development journey isn't just going to start. It's going to kind of like over like a whole month, maybe you'll start to like make some steps and then you'll just kind of be in it. Right.
Yeah. You'll be seeing the progress and you keep going.
And, so I think something to keep in mind for like those people who want to start is like a lot of people are scared, like, like, oh, it's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of things. And the first kind of thing I want to say is like your fear of like, oh, it's going to be so hard to start and it's going to be so hard to, get going with things is the only thing holding you back. You know what I mean? Like everyone is going to benefit from self-development no matter what you do. If, you're like, okay, I want to start going to the gym and working out. That's a big one, right? Like a lot of people want to, start with that. And that's a great way to get started. It's something you can do, every day. Just get physical. You feel great afterwards. It's just like all around a great way to build discipline and build that kind of motivation to keep going. Dude, I'm always burping on this podcast. It's really bad.
Anyways.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I think the first part or like the first step is just starting, right? I think, like you said, it's very scary at first for someone who hasn't done any of this stuff. Just taking that first step can be scary, especially if, you've been in that deep, kind of just like flatline life for however many months or years. But there's actually a lot you can do, and it's definitely not difficult to start. No. Like you don't have to jump right into, going to the gym or getting a job or, reaching out to somebody. It could be something as simple as like, making your bed in the morning, starting a new habit. Like maybe if you don't floss your teeth every day, and stuff like that is definitely going to make you feel better as a person. Yeah.
Those little habits are going to kind of, grow into bigger habits. Like it's something that we've talked about before on here as well is like, just starting one new habit, and that's going to kind of push you'll start doing more. You'll start, succeeding a lot more if you can keep those little habits going, and they all kind of build on top of each other to build just better life habits. So yeah, that's a great important point. And I think like the main kind of thing that people worry about is like, okay, like I have this huge dream or like this thing that like seems so far off. Like, how am I going to go from here where I'm sitting in my bed every day watching TikToks for hours and just kind of being bored, laying down to like this dream, right? And I think it's like, first of all, you got to like take that out of your mind. Like this idea of like, oh, I want to accomplish this big dream. Like just start with realizing like, okay, I want to like work on myself and just kind of take the steps to get there, right? It's about the steps. It's about that journey. And through it, you're going to learn so much, right?
Exactly.
And like, to me, when I started, I think it was like there was a while where I was just kind of like, I was noticing I was just doing the same thing. It was COVID, it was summer. I was just kind of sitting in my room most days, just, playing video games, doing whatever, laying on my phone, like just being lazy, not doing anything important, right? And it was kind of crazy to me to realize like, okay, I really have like nothing going on, right? And I think there's like kind of at least for guys, like this kind of motivating factor, this thing we think about a lot, right? Like, oh, right now I'm real like sad because I'm alone and like I have no girl to talk to or like, just like I'm just playing video games doing nothing, right? And for me, that was kind of a thing that I was thinking about. Like I was like, I'd broken up with my ex a little while before and it had been a couple months and I was just like, man, I wasn't interested in being in a relationship, but I was just kind of like, wow, like right now there's nothing going on. You know what I'm saying? Like it's dry as hell. And that's when I started to realize like, okay, maybe rather than it being like, maybe I should go find, someone to talk to, right? Look for that type of stuff. I thought to myself like, well, how can I fix it? Like, what do I have control over?
Exactly.
Right? I think kind of that important step is like learning what do I have control over and what can I actually influence in my life, right? There's a lot of factors, especially when it comes down to like relationship type stuff, you have no influence over, right? It's all just the other person that you can't control. So what that means is you got to learn the things you can control. And to me, that is what self-development is. Like all the self-development skills we talk about are the ways that we can change and modify and influence our lives day to day, right? So, coming to that, like I want to ask, like, what are some things that you kind of like started with? If you have some like,
I actually had a quick story to tell. Okay, it's about a guy who's kind of in a similar situation. So I was one day in history class, I was
Right.
talking, I was talking to this kid, and we were all kind of opening up a little bit, just talking about school, whatever. And then this guy kind of goes on to talk about like his life is kind of boring and just dry and everything. And
Right.
we asked him, I was like, oh, so like, what do you do day to day? And he's like, oh, I play video games. Just kind of like the average,
Right.
like,
Average teenage guy.
average plateau teenage guy, exactly.
Right.
And then we start talking to him. So we're like, so like, what do you think about day to day? Like, do you think you spend more time thinking or doing? And he's like, oh, I think I think a lot more instead of taking action. So he's thinking
Okay.
like, or let me rephrase. He's always thinking about like how bad it is right now, and
Right.
like, oh, this is gonna suck going forward.
Right.
And so we start talking to him. So he's like, so what if you start doing more?
Right.
I found this interesting because when I first started school last year, like that's when I got my first job. I kind of got interested in stocks. You know, I was just
Right.
making more advancements on myself. And while I was doing more, I was thinking less.
Exactly.
And like I felt like more control over my life, I
Yeah,
guess. Like
100%.
I wasn't stressing about like stuff that wasn't even happening, like just anxiety. That's like, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge point. Like the idea of like, okay, if you instead of sitting there thinking about all the things that could go wrong or like, oh, this sucks right now, blah 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 blah. If you just take action, you a lot of the time when you're doing things and you're in the middle of stuff, you don't have time to think about like, oh, this sucks or like, oh, this is lame. You're just doing, you're just going, you're being active, you're working on yourself, and there ain't much that can stop you. You know what I'm saying? So like that is a great point where it's like to start like you gotta stop thinking about everything so much, right? Like to me, I do a lot of time where I do like think about things, but like I always come back to it. It's like if I feel like I'm thinking too much, I just say like stop thinking about it. Go do this. Go start working on this. Like go work on some thinking wildly stuff. Whatever distracts my brain and it re-locks me into what's important. Right? When we sit there and we think, like thinking really is kind of like it's a great tool if you can use your brain and like think about things ahead of time and really think about your actions and stuff. But it's also really, really deadly as well because it can lock you into feeling like you've messed up everything and like you're just constantly thinking about all the things you did wrong and it just messes things up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and unfortunately that's the reality for most people our age. They just think about the worst and then it kind of snowballs the wrong way.
Exactly. Like I see a lot of people wanting to, they think about all the things that they did wrong or like they might be sitting there just being like, oh, this all sucks. Like this is terrible. Like, there's nothing I can do, like whatever, right? And they're sitting there not taking any action and they're just complaining about it, right? And it's, to me, I'm like, it would be crazy if you just for once like stood up and took some action, right? And said, I'm going to stop telling myself I have no control, stop telling myself that there's nothing I can do and actually take some action. You would see just how successful you can really be. You know what I mean? Like success starts with taking that action and being like, screw this. Like I'm not going to be like, just some lame-o sitting there like complaining about my life. Like, and we've all done it. Like it starts like we've all sat there, we've done it, we've been sad, we've been miserable about something, but it's like you got to take the steps and the actions towards moving away from that, right?
Yeah, it's very harsh because like the average guy here doesn't really have a lot they could reach out to. You kind of really just got to climb and you get yourself out of there. No one's
Right.
gonna throw a rope down the hole to pull you out. You
Right.
really got to climb and do it yourself. It's very sad, but you got to do it.
And especially what sucks is like this is kind of a concept to me that was kind of weird, right? So when I was doing my self-development journey, right, started with my things, I didn't have anyone that really pulled me out, right? And kind of the cool thing that we didn't even realize, like with me and Nick doing this, is we were both kind of going through it at the same time, but neither of us reached out or said anything to each other. So then when we did finally get through it and we started talking about it, we realized how similar our processes and our steps were. But for me, like I did everything without much help, right? I didn't ask people. I like there's times I talked to friends, but it was mainly like I'm on my own, like I'm figuring my stuff out, right? And so then now that I'm past it and I'm past that point and I'm in a place where like, yeah, I'm still self-development, like I'm grinding every day, but I'm kind of at a healthy point where I can feel like I can see other people as well and help other people as well. I realize just how how few people actually want help, right?
Yeah.
So like I see these people with the same issues that I was going through, the same problems that I was going through, and I try to give advice or try to help, and most of them just don't want to hear it, right? And at first, that feeling of like, oh man, like these people don't want to hear it, like they don't want to help themselves, like hurt me. I was like, why wouldn't they want to do that? Like why? and like how can I help them, right? And I would get like upset when I couldn't. But that's when I realized like really like it was the same thing with me, right? My self-development journey started with having to realize like, okay, I can't get help from anyone. Like this is something I have to do on my own, right? So if you're sitting there and you're thinking like, man, I wish someone would just help me, like, man, like this sucks or whatever, just get up and do it. Just get up and start doing whatever you want to do, whatever, just the smallest step. Like Tristan said, like start making your bed or like start flossing your teeth, whatever. Like just get up and go live life a little. Go on a walk every day. Go do something that's different from your normal day to day, and you're going to start feeling that improvement. You're going to start feeling like there's so many things in life that we could do that are really simple, but add so much flavor and excitement to it, right?
Yeah, it's amazing how how small something you could do will make you feel better.
Right.
Like just literally the smallest thing.
If you can just establish like a small routine, like from, we talk about journaling a lot on here. Like that was my thing. Like you don't have to make it your thing, but I recommend it. Journaling to me was like, it's my morning routine thing that I get up, I wash my face, put my contacts in, and then I go and I journal every morning. It's what I do. And it's my way of starting my day off healthy. Right. And if I don't do it every day that I forget or I don't do it or something happens that keeps me from doing it right away, my day feels worse. Like I feel off, right? And until I do it, I don't feel like, okay, my morning started, right? Like that's the way I start my morning. And it's just from building that habit day after day after day, right? So it's the same thing. If you want to, develop, a habit and these skills, you got to go day to day, working and grinding. You know what I'm saying? So start something small, do something that'll just get you into that step, right? Write down your goals. Write down, I want to do this today. Like I want to do this today, and freaking do it. Stop questioning whether or not it's possible, because it is.
So I actually had a story about this, just doing like my own kind of just doing something small every day. So when I would play, I think this was maybe 2020, 2019, late 2019, I started playing Fallout 4, a little late to the party.
Right.
But I just kind of realized that, the guy or the girl you play is just the most confident, coolest guy ever. Or coolest girl,
right?
And they just do whatever they want, it's crazy.
Right.
So I kind of like took a note to this, and I was like, man, I kind of want to try this. So literally, just the next day at school, I was just going up to people and saying hi, and like there was a couple people I haven't seen in however many years, and I was like,
right,
how's it going, And I was just saying hi, and it felt really, really good.
Right.
And there was
right.
Yeah.
Just have this like kind of moment.
Just random confidence, and that kind of like I kept doing that just throughout the week, and I was like saying hi to girls that I thought were attractive, and I was just like, how's it going? And it was crazy.
Right.
Just the smallest little thing. It was a very big step for me, because I was kind of
Oh yeah, of course. Like I feel like if you're someone who like is scared, like 'cause I feel the same way. Like sometimes it's like scary to like just walk up to random people and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if you can break that confidence barrier, that's a huge thing.
I was just very socially awkward, and I was just like saying hi to people. It was pretty great.
Right.
But yeah.
And I mean, like, yeah, like look at that. Like that's just like something so random, but it's a step that can make you feel so much better, or start to realize like
not everyone's like cares so much,
Right. Like there's a level of nonchalantness that you need to have in life, right? And it's like this concept of this art of like non-caring, right? And like it doesn't mean like, okay, just literally don't care about anyone. Like that's not what it means.
That's bad. Don't do that.
Right? Like when we're saying like, kind of mastering this art of not caring, something that I've like been working on recently, of this thing where it's like just not letting insignificant worries affect you so much, right? And it comes down to our brains being wired to be, self-conscious and worry about what other people think of us, right? And that feeling keeps us from doing a lot of things, right? It's the feeling that's keeping you from getting up and starting your journey of self-development, right? You're worried about like, okay, well, if I start doing this, are people going to think I'm weird that I like get up early and go on runs? Or like, are people going to like think I'm weird that I have to like do all these things before I go out, stuff like that? Like you're like, oh, it's going to be so hard, and there's going to be all these, like, stop overthinking it. Stop caring so much, right? Just go and do whatever you want to do, and don't think about what other people think, because the craziest thing at the end of the day is most people don't care.
People really don't care, to be honest.
Most people don't care what you do.
No one's going to cheer. No one's going to hate on you, but they're just going to be like, yeah, he's doing that.
Exactly. Like, as long as you're doing something that's not like illegal or messed up,
yeah, don't do
you're
that.
Chilling. No one's going to care. No one's going to be like, that guy's super weird. And if they are saying that, who cares? Like,
yeah, I think something to note. Yeah, I was about to say, like, someone who actually judges you for doing something good in your life is like the most miserable person known to man.
Exactly.
Misery loves company, so they're gonna try to drag you down with them.
They're gonna try to bring you down with them, and it's just pointless, right? They just be like, whatever. Like, it comes back to it. Stop caring, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're gonna be like a loser and be like sad and lame, freaking who cares? Like, see,
Definitely not somebody you want to listen to.
Exactly.
If they can't even control their own life.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
If their opinion doesn't matter, basically. And, coming back to this whole point of, like, once again, you have to learn this skill of like not caring a little bit. Like, I'll kind of like get into this a bit with the way that we go about, building relationships with people or stuff like that. This has like been a big factor for me. I've brought this up before, recently on the podcast, kind of going through life stuff that's been happening with me. I've had to learn to account for, relationships and other things affecting my self-development journey, right? It was something that I didn't have to think about before because my self-development journey had been largely just on my own, right? Not dealing with girls or like building relationships and stuff like that. So it was a big shift when I then had to learn new skills to control my emotions with relationships, right? It was something that I hadn't worked on as much. And when it comes down to it, after, basically making a bunch of dumb mistakes for the most part, being an idiot sometimes, not knowing exactly how to communicate my feelings or, get through issues, I realized, like, okay, when it comes down to it, you just have to care a little bit less than you think you should, right? Like, when it comes to just, like, meeting people and seeing if a relationship will work, just, like, be yourself, right? Be yourself, do your thing, keep grinding. Like, the thing that's crazy to me is so many people say like, oh, like this is my perfect person. They need to be this. Like, I need all these, qualities, right? But they themselves don't offer
perfect.
anything. They don't have anything near as good as that, right? Like, people are like, I want a 10, but they're like a freaking 6.
This is actually a really good point. While we're talking about relationships, a little off topic, but the majority of guys right now are the nice guy. I put that on quote unquotes because
it's kind of, yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but those guys that are like, oh, there's no girls that are coming after me. There's a good reason. You're not a very good person, to be honest. It's very harsh, but there's a lot of things that guys need to work on to be able to attract.
Right.
And I think it kind of depends on the girls as well. Like, if you're looking for those girls that are kind of just no good, that's kind of a bad idea to start out with.
Yeah, and your kind of point of like, the nice guy is like, you can be a nice guy, but you have to have some amount of you have to realize, like, they don't care. Like, it comes out to the same thing. Like, most of the time, like, girls gonna be like, oh, he's nice, but like, they don't care, right?
There's
if they
a
like
value you have as a man, and it's not really niceness, I guess, or just like,
yeah, well, it's good to have niceness. Like, how I see it is, like, it's good to be nice, but that isn't the only factor that's gonna determine whether or not you attract someone, right? Like, be nice, be yourself, be a good, kind person, because that is an attractive quality to have. And, like, yeah, if you want to waste your time chasing after girls who don't like nice people and want to be, like, mentally, like, messed with and, like, gaslit, then, like, go ahead, get those girls. But, like,
great
generally
experience.
speaking, we don't want that, right? Like, you want someone who is healthy as well. And generally speaking, it's just about being nice, being yourself. But the thing that, like, I'm like, so many guys are, like, begging for a relationship.
Exactly.
Like, look, I've done it too. Like, when you get excited and you really want to be with someone, you kind of make them your only thing, right? Like, you get so excited about being with them. Everything has to be about them. All you're thinking about is them. And what happens is then you stop focusing on yourself and it just becomes unattractive, right? If you want someone to be attracted to you, if you want to, get a girl, right? You have to be able to just do your own thing, work on yourself, grind, show like, hey, I'm like, this is me. Like, this is who I am. If you're interested, you're interested. If you're not, you're not. Make some effort, but then, like, don't overdo it, right? Don't be like trying to hang out with them every day, trying to do things every day. Still focus on yourself and prioritize you first.
Yes.
Right? Every day you should get all the things you need to do and all the things that you are prioritizing first done. Then any leftover time you can spend worrying about these girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not doing that and you're spending all your time worrying about someone else, most of the time they're just going to take advantage of it and leave you with nothing. So,
I consider myself lucky. My whole situation, I'd say this whole year and I guess starting the middle, like August last year, my whole situation has been extremely lucky. I found someone who was very good for me.
Right.
And I wasn't really looking for it. It just kind of happened.
They just kind of pop in.
Yeah. But I kind of started getting more comfortable Like I was kind of like I wasn't very goal oriented around that time. And that's that's when I started the whole self-development thing with McDonald's,
Right.
get my first job. And I kind of like lost that focus, I guess. But like I said, the lucky part was starting like earlier this year, like maybe 3-4 months ago. My brother Nick, he starts walking in my room every so often. He's like, he tries to wake me up because I usually wake up pretty late, which isn't a good thing. I stay up late. But yeah, he starts like, hey, let's go to the gym. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I kind of like, I guess you could say I was just surrounded by the good mindset, like the self-development mindset. So it was more just like my situation was extremely lucky with the whole self-development thing and relationships. But even though my situation was lucky, like I'm still not like extremely far in the self-development.
Right. There's still a lot of steps you got to make.
Exactly. So, you could have a bad what I'm trying to say is you could have a really bad situation or a really lucky situation, but it really depends on how much you want it as a person.
Exactly. That's a great way to say it. I was going to say the same thing. It's like, yeah, what we do here, right? Like with Thinking Wealthy, like we try to encourage people, right? We try to encourage this self-development. But at the end of the day, we know that it doesn't matter. You're not going to do anything until you actually make the step to do it, right? And it's like that same thing. You could have all the most positive influence in the world, and you could have a ton of people like trying to, let's go do this, self-development, blah, 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 blah. But it's like if you don't want it, it doesn't matter, right? It's there's so many things in life where you got to realize like only you can affect those things, right? Only you can make those steps for change, right? And it really comes down to it is like, you got to make the steps, you got to make the change, and no one's going to help you through that. But it might sound scary, right? A lot of people are scared, like, oh, like no one's going to help me through it. Like, oh, I have to be alone in this process. But that is what being an adult is, right? That's what learning to like be yourself and like learning about yourself is. And if you try to, coddle yourself and not allow yourself to develop those skills and not allow yourself to learn to be happy on your own and develop your skills on your own, you will never be a successful, human. Like I don't think so. It comes down to it's like you got to do it yourself and you can't get help from other people. Yes, you can you can get help, but like you shouldn't rely on other people for the help.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, asking questions is the best thing to do.
Right. Like you can always, take advice and improve yourself with other people. That's why we have therapists. That's why people go to friends, right? Taking that advice is good, but don't just go to like vent and then don't think about the advice at all, right? Actually think about what we say. Don't just listen to this whole podcast and then say, that was a good episode, and then sit back down and do nothing, right? That's not the point of this, right? We don't sit here for 30 minutes just for you to listen and then say, all right, cool. No, like the whole point is get up and go freaking do it. That's how you're going to see the most success. So many people try to prepare and try to like, I'm going to take all these notes. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to learn about like how to develop myself, right? How to, I have this goal of like, I want to build this business. So I'm going to spend a year just researching it. Like, stop.
It's good, but there's like things you can do that you can just start right now.
You can just start. You're going to learn the best from just starting and doing it.
Yeah, everyone's journey is going to be extremely different. There's no recipe for self-development. You just got to start.
You just got to start. And it's like, that's the whole point. That's why we do this. We don't do this. None of this really matters. Like none of these, the words that we say on here really matters. The whole point of all this.
Very defeating.
Right? The whole point of all this is to make you guys think like, okay, I'm going to start, right? That's all I care about. I don't care if you listen to any of the words I say. I could be giving the worst advice ever. Like it doesn't matter. As long as I know you're getting up and you're starting, that's it. That's what matters, right? Because that's where you're going to see the most progress. It's not going to be from listening to me tell you how to do things, listen to me tell you my self-development story. It's going to be you're going to get up and you're going to start doing it because you want to, right? That's it.
I think the hardest part about self-development and just like just mindset in general is learning to control what you can and not worry about what you can control and not worry about what you can't control. Like I think one of the hardest things I've ever struggled with. I'm like 5'7", 5'8", guys. It was really hard, like hearing about people. This guy's like 6'2", so he doesn't really have to worry about it. He doesn't understand the unfortunate
being short
genetics of being short. Yeah,
you're not that short. You're like 5'7", 5'8".
Yeah, I'm just saying like the whole point was that I was more worried about it than everybody else. Like no one's ever walked up to me like, you're short. Like that's never happened. It's more of just like in my head. Like I was just thinking like, oh, I'm short. People are gonna be like,
not interested.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just really not the truth. No one really cared. I still pull all the hose.
Well, my main point is like anyone who's like, oh, he's short, so I'm not interested, is an idiot.
Yeah, that's
right?
kind of sad.
If you're like, you could, that's what I'm saying. Like, just if you have all these other qualities, what does being short matter, right? If you're a great person, you're like obviously a 10 out of 10. You're ready to, you're a great dude. No one's gonna be like, well, he's short though.
Yeah, and that's something you can't even control. So you can't be worried about that. You can be like, oh, this sucks. I'm gonna go. You can't do anything about that.
Right. It's better to just be like, okay, cool. If you're really not considering a relationship with someone because they are short,
A shallow person, you're a bad person. I hope you die.
okay, well maybe not that, but just like be like, all right, see ya. Like not worth your time then, right? That's just my main point of like all this. Like when it comes down to it, no one else matters. Only you matter. To the extent of like just like go do you, go develop yourself, and I'm telling you, you will see progress, and you will see that a lot of the time the things that you're stressing out about
Don't exist.
They don't exist. Doesn't matter. Okay? I think that's really it.
That's a good point, yeah.
I think that's the main point of all of this. Right?
Control what you can control. Worry about it.
Is there anything else you want to say?
That was it. That's the main point. Like that's
think
really
we've
why I
gotten to
wanted
the
to
main
stress
point.
there.
Right. It's just at the end of the day, if you're wanting to get started, don't stress about anything else. If there's anything you take away, it's just like go start. Don't stress. Don't think about what other people are thinking. No one cares. Stop caring.
Yeah, and also there's no recipe to this self-development. We can't give you a list of do this, do this, do this. It's just not going to work. You guys can ask all the time. It's like, "Oh, what can I do to start right now?" We can give you a little task like right now. Just do one push-up. You'll feel better. Literally. Maybe go make your med. Maybe go say hi to your mom or your dad. Whatever you want to do.
But, like we said, it really comes down to like if you are relying upon us to tell you all the things to do to self-develop, like you're never going to actually self-develop. That's not self-development. That's us making you develop.
Yeah.
Right? Self-development.
That's good.
The whole point is you got to go develop, right? So go do your thing. It's Monday. You just woke up or whatever. You're listening to this podcast right now. Go freaking start. Okay? Turn off the episode. Go start. Right?
Yep.
So, hope you guys have a good week. We'll see you next week. Another Thinking Wealthy week. Actually, I think this is starting 6 months, which is crazy. We've just gotten to 6 months after this episode is uploaded.
Yes.
Of doing this podcast. So, I hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you next week. Peace.